As many as 200 Americans are reporting possible symptoms of directed energy attacks on every continent except Antarctica. It's been called the Havana syndrome for where it first started, because the mysterious neurological symptoms were first experienced by U.S. diplomats in Cuba. Roughly 24 possible cases have now been reported in Vienna by U.S. intelligence officers, as first reported by The New Yorker. Diplomats and other government officials have also been involved. Joining me now, NBC's Josh Lederman and Adam Enta, staff writer for The New Yorker. Both have been reporting on this issue. Josh, first to you. You write about how the possible cases have spread, including possibly an American and Central Asian country of Kyrgyzstan who has experienced symptoms, including a baby there. Are there any clues about a possible cause yet?
The government still saying, Andrea, that they have no known source or culprit for this, although the leading theory still remains within the U.S. government. What came out of that National Academies of Science report, that pulsed microwave energy is the most likely thing to have affected these diplomats. The proliferation of these cases has really alarmed U.S. officials. Adam was first to report recently about these series of incidents in Vienna. At NBC News, we are exclusively reporting that there were incidents reported in Germany, including in Berlin, that led at least one official to have to be brought back from their post to the United States. And I think back, Andrea, to 2017, when you and I were first reporting on this. You traveled down to Cuba, and, the big topic of debate at that time was, who would be able to carry something like this out on the island of Cuba. The Russians, the Cubans, obviously, perhaps the Venezuelans or the Chinese. And now what we are seeing is whoever or whatever is behind this seems to be able to carry this out fairly undetected anywhere in the world, with you pointing out, every continent other than Antarctica having reported cases, and also cases now reported here in the United States.
And Adam, you've been reporting deeply on this, the first cases in Vienna, which the U.S. government, refers to as unexplained health incidents. What else have you been learning?
Well, basically, this started with the first case kind of about 2 months after the inauguration of Joe Biden. And sort of unlike what happened in the past, this was being reported live as it was happening back to Washington. So, this wasn't diplomats or spies who were reporting retrospectively about things that happened to them before. This was literally happening in the real time. And so, with an administration, the Biden administration, and the CIA, with a new director who is keenly focused on this and has put more resources not only into the health issues here, but also in terms of the intelligence and law enforcement investigation that's going on. So this was kind of these roughly 24 suspected cases were sort of unfolding starting 2 months after the inauguration. But, the same questions which has persisted since the very beginning, which is they're just so far been able to not find intelligence that points the finger at an adversary or a device, even though they have this working hypothesis that we just heard, which is that this is a pulse microwave device of some kind.
And so importantly, which you were reporting in The New Yorker, the fact that this administration has taken charge of this with the National Security Council, creating this interagency, two task forces that Bill Burns at the CIA is so importantly focused on it. So is Avril Haines, the head of national intelligence, because in the past, first of all, initially the FBI reported that it was mass hysteria, which was so offensive. This was the first study back in 2017, 2018, perhaps. And then they did not get help from Walter Reed. We did interviews with a former CIA official, Adam. The difference now seems to be a coordinated approach where they really want people to come out. And that's why we're hearing so many more cases. They want people to come forward to at least try to distinguish what might be part of the syndrome and what might not be. It's very clear that this is not the Cubans. It would not be popping up in China, in Moscow, and now all over Europe and now all over the world. Adam?
Yeah, well, it's definitely like the bar, as an official told me, the bar is very low. So they want people to report. The result may be that the numbers that we're seeing, the numbers that NBC, that you guys are reporting today, as many as 200, we don't really actually have a grasp of the numbers. Basically people report incidences, they're investigated, doctors look at the cases, they decide whether these should still be on the list of possible cases. I imagine there have been some reporting about, for example, soldiers in Syria who became sick. And for a while that was suspected maybe these were cases. Well, it turned out after additional medical tests that it was food poisoning that resulted. So these symptoms are very, in some cases, very common. And that leads to a lot of confusion about the actual numbers. So, as one official told me, the only thing they really know for sure about the number is that they don't know the number. So we really don't really have a grasp yet of how many of these are really it. And there is still the difficulty of trying to get to the bottom of it, which, despite the additional resources that have been committed, as far as I can tell, not very much progress has been made in trying to actually gather evidence in this case.
Well, at least they're now beginning to get treatment. And Josh, as you're reporting, they're beginning to try to come up with devices that could mitigate and protect people from it. Josh Lederman, we have to leave it there. There'll be a lot more reporting. I'll have more on Nightly News tonight.